is so important.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Home Secretary, in a statement, said the Iranian regime poses an unacceptable threat to our domestic security, which cannot continue. Yet we know that Iranians make up the third largest group of illegal migrants crossing the Channel. So does the Home Secretary agree with me that any Iranians crossing the Channel should be detained and deported and not allowed to claim asylum?
Well, I would say to the honourable member that I think the system that we inherited from the previous government, including a government that he was at different times a part of, was not strong enough, and that border security needs to be treated as a national security issue. It hasn't been for far too long. That's why we're introducing counter-terrorism style powers as part of our border security response. I'm really sorry that he and his party chose to vote against those counter-terrorism powers repeatedly, because we do need those counter-terrorism powers introduced. It's why we're also strengthening the security and criminality checks across the asylum and immigration system, because we need to make sure that we're doing everything possible to keep our country safe.
David Pinter-Duchinsky.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I'd like to start by welcoming the measures my right honourable friend has announced today, and join her in paying tribute to the security services and thank them for keeping us safe. The actions of the last few days underline the profound threat Iran poses to our country. Many of the Iranian community in my constituency in Hendon live in fear of transnational repression. Could my right honourable friend say a bit more about what the government's doing to protect our Iranian community and all those who live in fear of transnational repression, so that they can live lives in freedom in Britain?
Well, my honourable friend is right that transnational repression has become a growing threat and challenge, not just from Iran, but from other countries as well. The Security Minister provided an update to the House just last week on the further actions that we are taking, including further support for those who are being targeted and further advice and guidance as well for those who face threats. And those are the kinds of threats as well that our police and security service are particularly vigilant towards, to ensure that everyone in our country can feel confident they will be kept safe.
David Reid.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can the Home Secretary explain why the British envoy in Tehran was summoned by the Iranian authorities at the weekend? And more importantly, does this not signal a complete disconnect from reality on the part of the Iranian state?
Well, I think the honourable member is right to raise this. We have made extremely clear our views to the Iranian regime about the unacceptability of state-backed threats on our soil, including the summoning of the Iranian ambassador to the UK, but also including the further measures, not just in the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme, but in also the further measures we are now going to take forward in response to Jonathan Hall's report. But it is immensely important that the Iranian regime hears the points that we are making and that we are raising, and understands our determination to protect the security of those on UK soil.
Chris Finns.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I thank the Home Secretary for her statement today and the work that she and Ministers have done on this really important issue. Can I once again also put on record my thanks, and thanks to the people of Harlow for the work that the police and the security service do to keep us all safe. And does she agree with me that as methods of these state-backed agents change and adapt, we too need to change and adapt? I'm thinking particularly, as my right honourable friend from Dover said, with regards to intelligence gathering, and that the Jonathan Hall report will be an important part of that.
Honourable friend is right. The Jonathan Hall report identifies a series of areas where we have long-standing counter-terrorism powers, but they go further than the kinds of powers that we have around state-backed threats. That might be something as simple as the power for the police to set a cordon up around the target of a potential terrorist incident. They should have those same abilities to do that about a potential target for a state threat incident. So we will be looking to take forward those powers, but in order to be able to most effectively use those powers, we also need the best intelligence gathering. We already have the best security intelligence agencies in the world. They need to be able to work ever more strongly with international partners too.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Secretary of State very much for her words, and strong words and determined words and actions as well. We appreciate that. And firstly, I offer my thanks to the Counter-Terrorism Unit for their work with this case. I know that this is the tip of the iceberg of the work that is carried out on scene by us to keep us all safe across this great United Kingdom, Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The rest of these 3 asylum seekers will naturally highlight the failings in the system. And I say this regardless of whatever party was in power at the various times through that journey. What assurances will the Secretary of State and this government take regarding the influx of young single men claiming asylum who seem empowered to declare war against this nation that has fed and clothed them for so many years? And how do we assure our British public, my British public, that the end has come to housing these foreign nationals who hate this nation and all that it stands for?
Secretary.
Well, the honourable member is right to pay tribute to the police and security intelligence services, and he will know more than many in this House the nature, the complexity, the wide range of different kinds of threats our agencies have had to deal with through the years. They continue to need to deal with issues around terrorist threats, from Islamist extremism to far-right extremism. They have, of course, had to deal over very many years with threats around Northern Ireland, terror threats as well, and they have to deal with the changing patterns around state threats and the different forms that those threats can take, the way in which those interact with criminality as well. This government has made clear we see border security as part of national security. It's something the Prime Minister said in his speech to Interpol before Christmas, and it's why we are strengthening the counter-terrorism style powers that we are using and bringing forward through this House, but also strengthening that international cooperation. It's why we held the first ever international summit on organised immigration crime, because we see that as a national security issue too.
And that concludes the statement. And before we move on to the next statement, I'll give a few moments for the front benches to swap over. Statement, Minister Sarah Sackman.
Madam Deputy Speaker, with your permission, I will make a statement about an incident that has affected the Legal Aid Agency, an executive agency of the Ministry of Justice. The House will appreciate that while investigations are ongoing, there are limits to the amount of information that I can share publicly. However, the Government wishes to be as transparent as possible with Parliament, and I will provide an update based on the information that we currently have. On Wednesday, the 23rd of April, the Legal Aid Agency became aware of a cyber attack on its online digital services. These are the services through which legal aid providers log their work and receive payment from the government. The government, of course, took immediate action to bolster the security of the system, working closely with experts at the National Crime Agency, Government Cyber Coordination Centre, and the National Cyber Security Centre. We have alerted the Information Commissioner and, importantly, informed all legal aid providers that some of their details had been compromised. We also took some legal aid agency systems offline between the 7th and 11th of May to carry out work to contain the breach. Officials have been working around the clock to stabilise the system and support a complex investigation. I can now confirm that the cyber attack was more extensive than originally thought. On Friday, the 16th of May, we learnt from the attackers behind it that they had accessed a large amount of information relating to legal aid applicants, and we assess this threat to be credible. We believe they have accessed and downloaded a significant amount of personal data from those who applied for legal aid through our digital service sometime since 2010. That data may include applicants' contact details, addresses, date of birth, national ID numbers, criminal history, employment status and financial data, such as contribution amounts, debts and payments. I should stress this does not mean that every individual involved will be impacted in the same way. But we did need to act to safeguard the service and its users. In line with advice from the National Cyber Security Centre, the Legal Aid Agency took its online services down on Friday. I urge all members of the public who have applied for legal aid since 2010 to be on high alert for any suspicious activity. That includes messages and phone calls